The request for payment, you need to make sure that the signature of persons signing the request for payment form are the same persons that you identified on the authorized signature card. You have to sign in blue ink and do not use any correction fluid or tape on the form. If your project involves funds from the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund or the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, then we must receive documentation from LDH or DEQ indicating that those program personnel have reviewed the request for payment. That documentation needs to be submitted to us. Payments will not be approved until this documentation is received. This is a copy of what that form looks like. You would put in the top your name, address, telephone number of your grantee. You could see where some fields are yellow. Those are the fields that you as the entity would be completing. Your subrecipient number is your number that's been identified on your CEA. You enter your federal tax ID number and your UEI number. Remember that you must have an actively registered UEI number in SAM.gov. And we do go in to verify. If we cannot verify in SAM.gov that it's active, then we cannot process these payments. You would enter your request number in F. Your actual delivery date is the most recent date of delivery of services for each state fiscal year. The state fiscal year runs July 1 to June 30th. If you're requesting funds for work that extended over that time period, so if you're requesting for work that began, let's say in May and went until July or August, then you're going to need to be able to split that cost into two. You would have to invoice under ADD FY1. You would put the costs up to June 30th. And in ADD FY2, you would put the costs after June 30th. So it would be July 1 forward. Under status of matching funds, you're going to enter your amount of your matching funds that were committed to the project. And then the amount of matching funds that have been expended and documentation that have been previously submitted to us for confirmation. So on your first request for payment, if you have not submitted us anything as of yet, showing that you had expenditures, then that would be 0. On number 3, under H, the amount of matching funds remaining to be expended and documented would be the difference between 1 and 2. The amount of funds expended since previous submission, and then it says attached documentation. This is where if you are using documentation that you have expended matching funds, you would give us the copy of the invoice. You would also give us documentation of the expenditure. That means that we have to have proof that the payment has been made in the form of a canceled check, a check number, and a bank statement showing that that canceled check has been paid, a credit card receipt, something that shows that this invoice was actually paid. We have to have that in order to document that it has been expended. And then finally, the remaining funds that are to be spent, the 2 calculation fields, this is an Excel spreadsheet, will calculate based on what you enter. You put your grant amount under status of water sector funds. Your water sector funds received to date, you would enter that as well. And then the formal subtotal. And then down under ADD 1 and ADD 2 is where you will put your costs that you are requesting for. If all of your funds are in the same state fiscal year, if all of the work was completed within the same state fiscal year, then you would only have an entry in ADD 1. And you would only have an entry at the top under G for ADD FY1. And again, you would enter these numbers here and it will calculate under amount. If you have a sewer project, list it under sewer. If you have a water project, you would list it under water. If you are documenting, are you requesting funds for water sector, for engineering fees, you would put them there, or administrative fees, you would put it here. It's important to note that if you have those line items in your CEA, then that means you have funds set aside for those activities. If you only have sewer or water, or you only have construction and contingencies available, then that means you do not have water sector funds available for professional services. So you would not be requesting funds for those costs here. If you are requesting funds for acquisition, you would put them there. Any costs associated with acquisition would be drawn here under the acquisition line item. Under K is where you will be signing the request for payment. Again, it can only be persons that were on the approved authorized signature card that will be signing the form. Make sure that you sign in blue ink with no correction fluid or tape, and that you sign the form exactly as the name is on the authorized signature card. On the bottom, oh, sorry about that. On the bottom of the form here is where the state will put how much money we are going to approve with water sector and how much would be paid for with matching funds. We will review, sign, and approve, and we will send a copy of this form back so that the system is aware of how much water sector funds will be paid and how much matching funds will need to be paid for this cost.